Hello friends and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be reviewing the newly released horror film Smile, and I've just got to say I'm so bloody happy that we Australians got it at the same time as the US. We're still waiting on Barbarian and Pearl though, but I guess we're just going to celebrate our wins and be patient. Smile is a psychological horror film written and directed by Parker Finn as his feature-length directorial debut. Based on his 2020 horror short, Laura Hasn't Slept, Smile is centered around psychiatrist Rose, played by Sosie Bacon. After witnessing a traumatic incident involving a deeply disturbed patient claiming to be being stalked by a malicious entity of sorts, Rose's world is turned upside down as she begins experiencing the same terrifying visions as described by her former patient. I'm going to be honest and say that when Smile was first announced, I really wasn't excited for its release, mostly because I saw the poster and I thought it was going to be like a gimmicky popcorn horror along the same vein as Truth or Dare, so my expectations were pretty low. In the weeks leading up to its release, however, I kept seeing positive reviews on social media from early screenings, and honestly, I was really surprised. And then I saw reports of their viral marketing strategy where they just got creepy smiling people just standing in the crowds at televised major sporting events, and that further piqued my interest, not gonna lie. Other than that, I pretty much went into this completely blind. I didn't see any trailers, I didn't read any reviews, so while I had a small idea of what I was going into, I really didn't know much more than that, and I think that this is the best way to go into this movie. If you haven't seen any of the trailers yet, I recommend avoiding them at all costs. I actually checked out one of them after I saw the film and I was just shocked with how much they gave away. It spoiled so much of the film and some of the messed up scares as well, so I think that my experience benefited so much going in blind. So getting into the actual review, I'm happy to report that Smile pleasantly surprised me. It's an effective, really well executed horror film which at times is super dark and brutal. The story itself is heavily focused around mental health and trauma. It has a lot to say regarding the real life horrors that come from suffering from poor mental health and the repercussions from it. I think it did a great job addressing these themes on a literal and metaphorical level, although at the ending I did think the message was muddled up a bit, but when taking it on face value, it worked. When it comes to characters and performances, Sosie Bacon does an excellent job portraying a woman in crisis who's being plagued by this evil entity while simultaneously being met with doubt and disbelief from her friends and family. I really liked Rose as a character, even though some of her decisions were a little frustrating, but all in all, I think she was well written and fleshed out, and I think Sosie was an excellent casting choice. There's a few other supporting characters, although they're pretty surface level and exist really to drive the plot. I will mention though that Caitlin Stasey playing disturbed patient Laura does a lot with the little screen time that she has, and she definitely left a lasting impression. She actually starred in the horror short Laura Hasn't Slept and reprises her role as Laura in this feature-length adaptation. With regards to the horror aspects, I really have to praise this film for actually being quite frightening. Some of the visuals are super creepy and actually gave me goosebumps, which isn't a normal reaction, and I can tell you that this didn't just happen once. I probably got goosebumps about 3 or 4 times, so that is a testament to how creepy this film is. Also, be prepared for jump scares, and a lot of them. The majority of them were really effective and served the story well, but there were a few, probably around 15 to 20%, that were added purely just to make you jump, you know, the kind of roll your eyes kind of jump scares. But for the most part, I think they were fun, and a few of them actually got me really good. Jump scares and nightmare fuel visuals aside, the psychological part of this film was also unsettling. I don't know about you, but pretty much every time I go into a film, I put myself in the shoes of the character and think, what would I do if I was going through the same situation? Personally, I've always thought that if I was in some kind of really crazy situation like the one that Rose is in this film, that I could plead my case to my loved ones and they'd believe me and would figure it out. But after watching this, I'm not so sure. The technical aspects were also a major highlight of the film and they really stood out to me. The score was awesome and so creepy, and along with the sound design and the effective use of silence and darkness, it really generated a suspenseful atmosphere and kept me on the edge of my seat. Visually, the film looks great and there were some really artistic shots and some dizzying camera work, and the special effects were fantastic. There was also some incredibly disturbing practical effects towards the end of the film, which I was obsessed with. I just thought it was awesome. When it comes to my criticisms of the film, something I noticed pretty early on, and I'm sure I'm not the only person making this observation, but Smile is really reminiscent of It Follows in both concept and imagery. The similarities between the two films was starkly obvious to me, and there were some scenes that just felt like straight up recreations from It Follows. For those who have seen It Follows, this film will feel very familiar, and for that reason, I feel like it lacks originality. In addition to this, I feel like there were some issues with the pacing. Like some parts felt like they just dragged on a bit, especially in the middle portion of the film. I found myself kind of zoning in and out from time to time, which isn't really typical of me. I'm not someone who lacks concentration, and I really like longer films or slow burn films and things like that. This one's definitely not a slow burn, but that's just something I noticed that, yeah, I kind of lost concentration in parts there. Not necessarily a criticism of the film, but I did find the tone to be a bit interesting. It jumped between being serious and dealing with some really heavy subject matter such as suicide, and then kind of switched gears and felt quite comical. More so, it was the cadence and tone of certain characters' voices and how they delivered their lines, which kind of made it feel funny and lighthearted when I don't know if that was the intention. That being said, we were in a pretty full cinema with a lot of teenagers, so the atmosphere was more playful. Like there was a lot of laughing and screaming. You know how it is. That could have had something to do with it, but either way, I didn't feel like it took anything away from my experience, and perhaps it's more palatable this way, but yeah, it just felt a bit jarring at times. Overall, Smile is a way better film than what I thought it was going to be, and I had a really good time watching it. It's a lot more than just a creepy smiling demon, and what it lacks in originality, it makes up for with well-executed scares, nightmarish visuals, sophisticated cinematography, and a killer score. Also, the ending scene is freaking awesome, and it has an epic payoff, in my opinion. I give Smile a personal score of 7 out of 10. Super impressed with this one, considering I didn't even want to give it the time of day a couple months ago, but I'm so glad I went and saw it in the cinemas, and it is in cinemas now, so you should definitely go check it out. I'm really excited to see what Parker Finn does next. I really enjoyed his vision, and like I said, even though it is like other films that we've seen before, I do think that he has a really promising future, and I will definitely be checking out whatever he does next. I hope you like this review. If you've seen Smile, let me know what you thought about the film in the comments below. Do you disagree or agree with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching.